they learned and use it in real life. And that included any kind of incidents that occur. Critical incidents is what we'll refer to them. Even though I'm going to say this kind of caveat now, even though I teach this as an active shooter training class, this class is just not, the mentality that I teach in this class is not just for active shooter situations. It can be used for any kind of emergency situation that you want to refer it to, okay? Because I'm going to teach you techniques to calm yourself down as best you can, okay? We'll go over, like I said, this is put on by, I'm getting ahead of myself and I apologize. I'll teach you these techniques, okay? Prior to becoming a law enforcement officer, I served in the military and went to a little country on the west coast, or in the east coast of Africa called Somalia. It was a humanitarian mission that turned into a lot more than that afterwards. So I have a lot of experience, so to speak, in critical incidents, and I'll get a little bit more into that as well, and how we took those things that I learned in the military, transferred them into this life that I am now for the next 4 months before I retire, and then we'll move on, okay? If anybody has any questions, I say this caveat now, if you have a question, raise your hand, please, at any time, doesn't matter, okay? I'll try to answer it the best I can, and if I say we'll wait till the end, we'll wait till the end, but please don't forget your question, okay? Again, this is the civilian response to active shooter trainings that we teach. Again, it can be put for anything, fires, tornadoes, any kind of weather incident or anything critical incident you may come across in life, okay? We are presenting this as the Cobb County Police Department, but this was come up from the, what we call ALERT. It's the Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training. They come up with, and they look at any critical incidents that law enforcement responds to every year and look and say, how can we respond to them better? And I'll give you quick incidents for, how many remember Pulse nightclub shooting in Florida several years ago? That was horrible. I'll be the first to admit I'm critical of myself and the job and the people that I work for, because that's how we get better at what we do. Okay, that was a horrible response. Okay, and that's why we've changed the way we change things. Is before we were taught, you wait for 2 or 3 more, 4 more people before you go in, and that is no longer the case. If you're the only officer there, you go in and you go by yourself, and that's just the way it is. That's your job. Okay, that's what we get paid to do. Okay, and our job, kind of get into it, our job is to distract that person that's trying to do people harm from doing harm and focusing on us. That's our job, so everybody else can be safe, get out, whatever you have to do, okay? There are some sensitive materials in here, nothing that is bloody, gory, anything like that. It's just, it's reality of, unfortunately, of the world we live in today, and we kind of go over. So if something bothers you at any point in time, feel free to get up. I'm not going to take offense to it at all, I promise you. But there is at least one video that I do have to show. Okay, it's not bad, but I will show you this video, and it just kind of goes over some things about what ALERT says I have to show. Okay. All right. So one of the things we're going to talk about disaster response psychology, what your brain goes through, what your body goes through when a disaster hits. Okay, and again, I say disaster. I'm not saying active shooter. I'm saying disaster. It can be anything. It can be a fire in your home. It can be a tornado. Like I said, it can be anything. Okay, we'll talk about some of the active shooter events briefly. I'll skip over most of those because it's kind of like the facts. This class used to be 4 hours. I narrowed it down to 2. I'm taking this and trying to do it in about an hour and 15, hour and a half. Okay, but active shooter events are kind of like facts. If I sat here and spat out facts for you over and over and over again, none of you are going to learn anything, right? You don't care about facts. We know this stuff happens. We know what happens with these things. So some of the active shooter events we won't go into too many of those. We'll discuss a few of them, but not many. And then we're going to talk about the response to active shooters. events and what you can, some things that they teach you to do. And that has changed quite a bit over the years. All right, why we do it? We have a community that we live in, okay? It's me personally, because if you see, we have all these different things in the community. We have parks, we have churches, we have businesses. Our biggest thing that we have now is Truist Park, okay, which I am at there almost every single day. But we had in the Battery outside of that. Those are just all of these things that we have in Cobb County now. And this is why we train quite a bit on these events, and this is why I enjoy this. And I know that may be like the worst word to use, but I enjoy coming out and trying to teach people the way they should act, way they can act, and know that it's possible to survive these incidents. All right, 3 stages of disaster response. You're going to have denial. What is happening to you? We're going to deny. Everybody denies everything. We do that. When something happens and it's critical, you go, oh, that's not what's happening, okay? And it's exactly what's happening. All right, we deliberate. What can we do to make this, or what can I do to get out of this situation that I'm in, okay? And then your decisive moment is I need to move. I need to get going. I need to make that decision. And I told all my training officers for the 22 years that I did it, the worst thing you can do is not make a decision. Make a decision and be ready to make another decision when that decision goes to poop, okay? Because it will. Okay, we're going to talk about denial. We're going to spend some time on denial because denial is the hardest stage for you during anything, and for anyone that doesn't train on this, and we'll talk about some things that you can do throughout your normal day lives of how you can make this process a lot faster. Because denial is the one thing that we do that takes the most time. And what do you think the number one threat, the number one harm for you is in any kind of critical incident? Time. Time is your number one threat. Time is going to be the thing that hurts you the most, okay? Because you don't have time to sit there and go, that's not happening, okay? Again, we'll get into a lot more of this. Okay, listen to your instincts. If you say, hey, this is happening, it's happening. And if we find out later on that it's not, okay, the only person that who cares? Adults have this thing that we're like, I don't want to be made look like a fool to somebody else. Get over that. I've been made to look like a fool many times, and I will continue to do so as long as I'm keeping people safe and myself safe. It doesn't bother me, okay? All right, we're going to talk about normalcy bias and social proofing. Has anybody ever heard those terms before? Okay, normalcy bias is putting something that's not normal, and we're going to use gunfire in this instant, and making it normal, and making it sound like, oh, it's a car backfiring, or it's fireworks, or something like that. Okay, we take something that's not normal, and we make it normal. Does that make sense? Okay. Social proofing is going to be, and I'm going to use this in an incident when we get into it a little bit more. I'll use an active shooter event where this really played into it. Social proofing is in doing, I'm not going to move until somebody else does because I don't want to be the fool that's in the group and going, hey, this is what's going on. But that's what it takes, is that one first person to make that move to say, look, we got to be safe. Okay? And we'll get into the other things in just a second too. All right, so this is a video I kind of want you to pay attention to. Due to time, I'm only going to play it once, so I really want you to pay attention to it. Okay, this is, she's speaking about an incident that happened in, I want to say Mumbai, but I'm going to get it wrong if I say it, and I said it, so it's probably wrong. But just we'll kind of listen to this one real quick, and I don't have sound on it, so let me see. And that's why. I don't have any sound on it. Do you know?
Check.
It sounds like it's coming from there, but I'm not hearing it.
In Thailand. So similar to Inola, manages education, although she was 10. But the counterpoint, Christian wanted me to talk about a little girl, much like him, who was from the UK, visiting a place she'd never been, at the same exact moment in Thailand. So similar to him in a lot of ways, similar level of privileges and advantages, education, although she was 10. But she was there with her family on holiday, and she was walking down the beach the same morning, and she noticed how the sea was behaving strangely. And she had, in her science class back home, recently learned about the warning signs of a tsunami. And Tilly turned to her parents and she said, I think there's going to be a tsunami. The sea is, it's shallow, it's frothy. This is one way you know there's going to be a tsunami. And her parents did what most of us would do without that knowledge and tried to tell her everything was fine, to calm her down, to make sure, she didn't freak out. And they kept walking. And at some point, Tilly sat down in the sand and refused to go on because she was so convinced that there's something wrong. There's two things about this. The first is the incredible power of just a little bit of information, and the second is the incredible courage of children. Children are wide open to this stuff, which is why firefighters are constantly showing up at schools, right? Children are open to this. They're not as likely to fit everything into pre-existing narratives because they don't have as many cluttering up their brains, right? And they're not as worried about being embarrassed, to their great credit. So her father agreed to take her back to the hotel. The mother went on walking on the beach. And they get to the hotel, and now this is where the deliberation, the social part happens. So her father does something very brave, which is he turns to one of the Marriott employees and he says, I know you're gonna think I'm crazy, but my daughter is worried there's gonna be a tsunami because the sea is doing this weird thing, and which everyone had noticed, and she heard that could be a warning sign. And it happened that there was a Japanese tourist standing right there and overheard him and said, I read that there was an earthquake in Sumatra earlier, so it could be that there is going to be a tsunami. She might have a point. And together, the three of them discussed it and then did something very courageous, which is they cleared the beach. They screamed and yelled and got everybody, including Tilly's mother, back. And they went to a higher floor, and no one died on the beach that day. The counterpoint.
Okay, so if you couldn't hear what she was saying on that, she was saying that family was on vacation, and it was a 10-year-old child who had noticed, that had learned in science class before, that for tsunamis, the sea is going to act a certain way. And she noticed that the sea was acting this way, and told her father and the mother and her brother, who were on the beach as well. And the mother and the brother went on, but she wouldn't go any further. She's like, I'm not doing this. And the dad, thank goodness, listened to her. And they went back into the hotel, told one of the employees, and they heard there was another tourist that was there that had said, yes, there was an earthquake not far from here. And so they got everybody off the beach and actually saved a lot of lives that day because there was a tsunami. And what she says in there that really sticks to me a lot is the fact that she said a little bit of knowledge will go a long way. It wasn't much that child learned about tsunamis, it's just how the sea acts, and that little bit of knowledge and the fact that child doesn't have the same social norms that an adult has, and not worried about being embarrassed, and not worried about being, scared to say something about it, went a long way and saved a lot of lives. Okay, so the importance of, and that's what the importance of is listening, the social proofing, She wasn't scared to say anything. She was willing to act. This is a 10-year-old child, okay? She was not scared to act, and the normalcy bias of not turning something that's abnormal and making it normal, okay? I mean, there's so many things that she could have said. That's just the phase of the moon. It's just, it's an early low tide or something. I don't know. Anything that she could have turned it into making it normal, she did not, okay? So that's the importance of social proofing and normalcy bias, and we're going to talk a little bit more about those. But one of the things I want to kind of get social proofing, how many of you ever been to like really fancy dinners where they have 16 knives, forks, and spoons, right? Okay? All right? Me personally, this is where I'm going to come into social proofing, because I'm going to be sitting at the table and I'm going to be like, I have no idea which one to use first. Okay? When I was growing up, we used as little as you had to, because that's how much you didn't have to clean up that much afterwards. We didn't believe in dessert plates because you used the plate you ate off of, because you didn't have to clean up dessert plates. My mom got mad at us about it, but we still used them anyway. So, but that's the thing, is you look at social proofing as that way, and you can go, okay, well, I'm the person that's going to be sitting around looking for the next person to make that first step so I know if I'm right or not. But then again, what if that person's wrong? That brings in a whole new kind of thing, right? Okay, so we're going to talk about deliberation now. So deliberation, this is going to be where you are taking what you've seen, whatever critical incident is happening to you, and you're going, okay, what is it that I need to do? Okay, and we have two different brains in our head. You have a human brain, which is slow and sophisticated, okay? That human brain is thinking, it thinks, it has to say, okay, this is what's happening to me right now, and what is going on in my head, and what's going on around in my environment that I need to act on, okay? It's very slow, and it's going to take, and this is where it comes into that, it takes time for that brain to make a decision, okay? So we're going to go into this other brain, which is we call it the lizard brain, okay? Your lizard brain is fast, it's flexible, okay? And this is how you can train that human brain to become a lizard brain during any kind of incident that happens. And it's actually very simple. We're going to get into it. I'm not going to go into it too much now, but it's very simple. And I'll give you an example. When our recruits, or the officers that are newly hired, go through mandate, before they go to the range and fire one round out of a gun, they draw that gun at least 10,000 times so they know where it is. It's called what? Anybody know that term? Anybody? Muscle memory. Okay, very good. They know exactly where to go, and it's no different. We have the same thing. We do. You just do it different ways. Okay, it could be pulling something out of your purse because it's always in the same spot. You may have a cell phone pocket in your purse, or where your wallet's at the entire time, right? You wear your wallet on a certain side. You don't have to look at it and go, where is it? Right? That's your lizard brain. Believe it or not, very simple. Okay, because you practice that thing over and over. Whatever it is that you do, you practice it over and over and over again. I'll give you real quick where this really came into play is when I teach recruits, I teach them practice things all the time. Knowing where you're at constantly. Knowing where you're good, because that's going to be our number one, that's one of our number one enemies in this job, is not knowing where you're at. Because if you don't know where you're at and something happens, we can't find you. I mean, we can now because of technology, and all our body cameras and radios have GPS on them. So, but it's still, that's where time comes into play, okay? So I always taught recruits to pay attention. And me being I wouldn't say evil mind, but the very want to mess with your head kind of my person that I am, would take them and drive them into neighborhoods that are very large neighborhoods and get them lost on purpose and go, okay, we just had a guy jump out of a car and he is engaging us and we need to do something. Where are you at? And they'd be like, And I'm like, well, too late. We're both gone. So, and it just gets them to think, and this is the way we think. So we had an officer years ago that had made a traffic stop on Powers Ferry Road near 285. Goes up to the car, and this is something that this officer had practiced in his head constantly, over and over and over again. As soon as he walks up to the car, he approaches the driver, notices something in the back seat, and goes, "Hey, who is that in the back seat?" Takes a step back, and the guy in the back seat shoots 5 times and hits him 5 times. Okay? Hits him under the vest here, hits him in his hand, and hits 3 here, and 1 was in where we carry our extra gun that's here. He had been injured, okay, but he was still thinking in his process with using his lizard brain when the dispatcher gave the wrong tag number on the car, the wrong description of the vehicle that had stopped. And he was able to relay, nope, that's not right. This is the correct tag number. This is the correct vehicle description, okay? Because if we didn't have that information right then and there, we wouldn't have been able to find the guy that had done this, okay? And that just kind of goes, once you kind of use that as an example, just to say, you can teach your brain to go from I'm slow, sophisticated, to being fast and flexible, because you train yourself, how do I do these? And we're going to talk about what's called mental scripting. We'll get into a little bit more of that here pretty soon. All right. So when we talk about action in the human brain and the lizard brain, okay, the human brain, again, it's fight. How many of you have heard of the fight, flight, or what? What's that? Fight or flight? Is that all you've heard of? It's fight, flight, or freeze, or you can use hide. This works just as fine. Okay? Because this is something that your brain does. Okay? The human brain, when a critical incident happens to you, and again, it can be anything. It could be somebody pulling out in front of you at a red light. Okay? That's how this stuff is useful for everything. Okay? It can be you're gonna do one of 2 things. You're gonna fight, or you're gonna try to avoid it, or whatever it happens. You're gonna flight, you're gonna run away from it, or you're just gonna freeze. And what I'm trying to teach you is not to do that last thing, because freezing costs time. So what I want you to do is you can switch to that lizard brain, okay? And that lizard brain is going to be the one that's going to be able to, this is what's happening to me, okay? It sees the incident that's taking place, it deliberates, and it takes action like this. I mean, it's quick. It's a quick process, okay? And yes, anybody that's in this room today can teach their brain to do this, I promise you. You can teach your brain. It's just knowing what your limits are. And I couldn't tell you. I can sit here all day and we could go over it, but I would not know your limits of what you can and cannot do, or what you're willing to do. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit later. Okay. How many in here are nurses, been nurses, doctors, healthcare? Good. Oh, one in the back. Okay. So I apologize because I'm not. Okay. So you're going to know a little bit more of this next slide than I do, but we're going to go over what your body does during stress. And if anything I say is incorrect, please let me know. But I got this from them, so it's not my fault. Okay. So we use 5 different phases for what we call the color phases when your heart goes through a stressful event and how it goes. So we're sitting here at 60 to, and let me get my notes on this real quick so I don't misspeak, please. Okay. So at 60 beats per minute, and of course this is not everybody, mine's usually about 70, 72 beats per minute is my normal resting heart rate, okay? So everybody is a little bit different, so I'm just using this as an example. All right, but 60 beats per minute is usually what's what they call resting heart rate. It's normal. It's just us sitting here. Some of us might have a little bit elevated because this topic is not fun. Okay, mine gets a little bit elevated. If I had my Apple Watch on right now, it'd be like, you need to sit down and calm down, because I'm not a public speaker. okay? I don't mind doing it, but it's not something I do often, and it makes me a little bit, gets me a little bit, my blood pressure or my heart rate going up a little bit, okay? At the 90 beats per minute, this is, you start walking at a brisk pace, okay? Maybe just walking around a little bit, not too hard, you're not doing anything that's strenuous, okay? You start to lose a little bit of your fine motor skills, okay? Like what you would use to tie your shoes, your fingers, your toes, you know, those kind of things, using fine motor skills. Okay, at 120 beats per minute, this is when your complete motor skills deteriorate, okay? But what's interesting about this is the fact that your physical performance can increase, okay? And you also have the tendency to become stronger, faster, and you will bleed less in this. There has been proof that this happens. Again, this is not everybody, but it has happened. Okay, you've heard stories of people where cars have fallen on people and you see somebody that's picked it up and to be able to get them out. Those things happen. This is where your heart rate comes into play. Okay? This is like us. Again, you might walk a little bit faster at a pace. You may jog a little bit, slow down. Okay, we're not too high. 150 beats per minute. This is probably on a treadmill. Getting that heart rate up really heavy. You can still talk. It may be a little bit harder for you to talk, but you can talk. Okay? This is where our cognitive processes start to deteriorate. Our brain, this is why it's kind of hard to start thinking, because your brain starts to slow down a little bit, and you can't think as fast as you thought you could. Okay? Who's heard of the term tunnel vision? Okay? That's where you basically are seeing, you're not seeing your peripheral vision. You can usually see about 182 or so degrees on either side of you, which is a great thing to be using when we're walking in parking lots and things like that, not looking straight ahead, not on our phone, so you're walking down the middle of the the street where people are going to want to run you over because you're not going into a parking spot. And they're trying to get there and you're just walking down a thing. Because our phone is our biggest distraction. It's our biggest distraction. I've seen it. And I will talk about an incident that happened recently about that. You have auditory exclusion where your hearing starts to go by. Okay? And time dilation. Who knows what that means? Time dilation. Okay? That's when time slows down. It doesn't feel like time is the same. Okay? This happened. Right. Yes, correct. It doesn't actually slow down, which we would like to do sometimes if we had that power, but yeah, we don't. But yes, in your head, time slows down. Okay, I've done this when I've been involved in incidents and I have to go talk to everybody about what happened, and they're like, hey, how much time passed between that? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, it was like maybe a minute or two, and it's really been like 15 minutes, and you don't realize that that's how long it was. Okay. Auditory exclusions, you may not hear the same things everybody else is hearing. Okay, officers that get involved in shootings don't even hear their own gun go off. They may not even hear the perp's gun. Okay, they just see the things that are coming. Okay, and at 175 beats per minute, this is where you have system overload. You're pretty much shut down. Okay, you free. This is where we'll freeze. Okay, and again, this could be higher for some. It may not. It could be lower for some. Just depends on your personal health comes into play. All kinds of different things come into play. But at this point, this is where we're trying not to get to. We don't want to get to that 150, 175 if we can. Okay? And again, we're going to go over some techniques that should help you be able to not get there. So I'm going to kind of give you this little bit of scenario that we'll go over and kind of explain and hopefully see. Well, yeah, he explained all this heart rate and heartbeat and beats per minute, and I don't understand what he's talking about. Okay, so I want you all to put yourself in your house. You're watching a movie, whatever is your favorite one, and you're watching television, and all of a sudden you hear this noise, or you're eating and you're just having a snack. You're just whatever your favorite snack is. Okay, where do you think you're at right now in that phase? What phase are we at? You hear that white face, 60 beats per minute, right? Okay, so all of a sudden you hear a noise outside, and then we hear it again, and you're like, that's like outside the house. Where do you think you're at? 90. Okay, we're at 90, we're in that yellow phase, right? And then all of a sudden we were all like, hey, that sound is coming from right outside my door. Okay, we're jumping up into that 120, right? Okay, and then all of a sudden we go outside, and we're like, hey, what's going on? And you hear that sliding glass door trying to open. So where are we at? The gray, right? Okay, and then all of a sudden you see me, not dressed in this, because I'm a bad guy, okay? And you see me walk through that door, and you're gonna go into black. That's where we try not to be, because hopefully we've acted before then, but, okay? That's how that kind of helps you kind of see how your heart rate can go from yellow, or from white to black, gray, really fast, okay? It doesn't take long, okay? And I'm not trying to scare everybody, trust me, I'm not, and that's not what I'm doing, okay? Because I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna have you guys do things that we can do while you're sitting, driving your car, while you're sitting at home, reading a book, things that we can talk about, okay? All right, I want to play this real quick because it's only a 10-second video, but I want you to watch on your left-hand side on the aisles where the lady comes out, and we're going to watch it real quick, and I don't know if I have to push this one. I think it starts. Okay. Just watch it real fast. You'll see the lady. I don't even know what's going on in this video, to be honest with you. But watch the lady with the child. Okay. I'm going to back it up, hopefully. I'm going to watch it one more time. Okay. How many of us have had the wonderful opportunity to be parents, grandparents, or anything like that? Okay. How many of you had the wonderful opportunity to put a child into a stroller? How many times have you done that? Okay, so you know what you're doing, right? And I want you to show, this is a perfect example, how she's in the store, she's white, going to that white heart rate. She's at 60 beats per minute. Until whatever incident, and again, I don't know what happened in this incident, okay? But when that incident happened, she went from that 60 beats per minute to 387 probably, okay? Because her fine motor skills went from, I know how to get my child out of the stroller, right? Fairly easy, because I've done it 100,000 times. It's not a small child, okay? It's a toddler, probably 2 or so, maybe, I'm guessing. Okay, so I've done it 1,000 times to get this child in and out of the stroller, but what happened is I've lost all motor skills because I haven't practiced this enough, and we're going to get into that in just a minute. Okay, I'm not going to show this video, but we'll discuss it. Station nightclub fire in New England, yeah, it was. I want to say Connecticut, but I'm going to be wrong. Okay, Rhode Island. It was back in 2003. We're not going to play it because it's a long video. It's a longer video, but I'm going to discuss it real quick. So there is a rock band that's playing, okay, and what they're using is pyrotechnics. This is not a very big club, okay. I'll be honest with you, it's not much bigger than where we're at right now, okay. And I'm hoping I can skip through it real fast. Yeah. Okay, because that's one I think I have to push. So what happens is they're using pyrotechnics. And at the back of the stage, you can see as those pyrotechnics go off, right, the ceiling starts to catch fire. Okay? And as the ceiling catches fire, it spreads rather quickly because the ceiling is made out of what? Asbestos, flammable, probably some of the most flammable stuff that they probably had that they could have made that ceiling out of. Okay. So during this, and I usually will play it and we'll start the clock, okay? But what I do is pay attention to it, and what I do is I broke it down into how many seconds it took for somebody to start acting. And this is where time can be hurtful for you, okay? Before the first person started noticing anything and saying, hey, we need to go, but it's not doing any good because it's loud, right? It's 15 seconds. Okay, 15 seconds is a long time, especially on something like this. All right, it takes 20 seconds for somebody else to say, hey, we need to go, and start yelling at the crowd, and they're pointing towards the doors. And you actually see the band start to head out. 23 seconds is when the crowd starts to move. When they actually start saying, hey, there's something wrong here, I need to move. And 30 seconds, it took 30 seconds for that fire alarm to go off. Okay. This is the layout of that Station nightclub. And as you can see where the 2 yellow arrows are at the top, right? That's where the stage is, and that's where the fire started. Those red circles that are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4 are exits. How many of those exits do you think people that came in knew about? 1. And why is that? Because that's the one that came in. I have a bad habit of being paranoid, extremely paranoid. I don't know if it's paranoia or just preparedness, I guess. I don't know what's the right word to use. But when I go into any establishment, and you guys were in here having your service, and I walked around down the hallway and kind of poked things out and said, okay, where are my exits? Okay? And nothing other, that's just what I do. When I go into a restaurant, my wife hates me for this, but I tell her it's for a good thing. Okay? And I tell her, like, these are the exits that if I tell you to go out that door, you go out that door. If I tell you to get under the table, don't move. Get under the table, don't move, please. No arguments. No, we don't need to discuss it. We'll discuss it later. Okay, we have time. And I just tell her to get down. But yes, number 1, the red circle with number 1 is the main entrance. Number 4 is a exit where they most likely brought in the equipment for the band. That's by the stage. That would have lasted for those first probably 30 seconds. Would have been a very good exit for a lot of people to get out of. Number 3 is by the main bar, which most people, if you're honestly, that's where most people are going to go get their drinks because it's the main bar, should have seen that exit. But there is theory that that exit and number 2 were covered by a curtain. Why, I don't know. And number 2 is by the kitchen, which most people wouldn't have known because it's at the kitchen. Okay? Anybody tell me right there where it's just below, where you see in that lower-ish right corner where the blue lines are? What is that? Windows. Can the windows be an exit? Absolutely. How are you going to get out that window? Chairs. They had pool tables right there. What's on pool tables that can be very good? Pool balls, right? And that's eventually actually what happened, is somebody started to scream, hey, take those pool balls, throw them through the window, and let's get out of there, okay? But unfortunately, and if you look where exit number 1 is, you see how it goes down and then it snakes to the left and before you go out, and then you have to go down the stair to the right or back. It's kind of a maze almost through the exit. Okay, that becomes a problem, as you'll see in the next slide. Okay, this next slide, all those circles are fatalities in the accident. They had over 100 people, unfortunately, that lost their lives in this, and 250 that were injured. Okay, if you see in the bathrooms in the office, there was a couple fatalities because people thought, hey, I'm going to go here and I'll be safe. Okay, there was only one, believe it or not, one fatality on the where the dance floor was. Okay, and that was what we call a crush death. That means the person was trampled. If you look, so where that number 7 is, that's where the pool tables, that's the window, that's outside of it, okay? And unfortunately, those people were able to get out, but were, again, the crush deaths. They got trampled because so many people were trying to come out. If you look right there where it says 18, and just to the left of that, that's the main entrance, okay? That's where 31 people lost their lives. That's where the most of them were. And we do unfortunately see this because of the fact that that's the only exit or entrance and exit that people knew about, right? So that's where everybody went. And what happens is you can't shove only so many people through a door. And what happens is they started all to pretty much pile on top of each other. I have seen this whole video. I would never show that at any one of the classes I teach. I don't care who they are, okay? But it's not good. I take classes that are what we call mass casualty incident response classes, and we discuss this. We discuss all kinds of mass casualty incidents that have happened across the United States. And that's what we see a lot of times, is the fact of people not knowing how many exits or how to get out, okay? And again, it's not to say this, but it's just to say this is one of those mental preparedness things that you can do when you go into a building or go somewhere. It doesn't matter where it is, Home Depot, Kroger's, whatever, wherever you go, you look and go, hey, these are my alternate exits, okay? And you can see them. You guys have them well posted here everywhere, okay? There's exits there. There's an exit here. I hate to say it, and I'm sorry, but these windows can be replaced, okay? Doesn't matter what the incident is. I mean, we talk about, again, it's an active shooter thing, but this can be any incident that happens. All right, so we're going to talk about what I like to refer to as combat breathing. I will call it also as box breathing. And the reason why I call it combat breathing, because I learned it when I was in the military. And this is what we did when our heart rate starts to go way up here, when we start to go, man, I'm starting to lose focus and I can't do that, okay? So what we do, and I'm going to tell you this, what happens is when I can do my combat breathing, okay, it helps me control my emotions, it helps me control my thinking, it helps me control what actions I'm going to take, therefore I can focus on whatever is happening to me. And these are simple things that you can practice and do in your car to where it becomes what? Muscle memory. It just comes second nature, muscle memory, whatever you'd like to call it. Absolutely, okay? And so what we do in combat breathing, I do 5 to 6 seconds, usually 5. You just take a deep breath in for 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds. You probably do this when you're relaxing and just chilling out, and your kids have driven you crazy for all day long, and you're ready to throw them out of the house, right? But you do it, breathe in, a few seconds, hold it for the same amount of time, like I said, 5 seconds, let it out for 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, and continue to do that process, okay? Because without that, there's no way you can control your emotions. You're going to lose it, okay? And when you lose it, that's when the human brain kicks in and not the lizard brain. And when that human brain kicks in, we're slow, we're sophisticated, and we're not fast like we need to be, okay? If I can't control my emotions, I can't control my thinking. And if I can't think, I can't make a decision, I can't take an action. And that way, that's all what that focus is. Does that make sense? Yeah? If it doesn't make sense, please let me know, okay? All right, so what we're going to talk about now is this mental scripting. I mentioned that word before in there. This is where I told you you practice. Go over incidents in your head. I do this all the time. Still, 26 years later, I'm still doing this at work. I get a dispatch to whatever it is that I'm going to. Doesn't matter. It can be an alarm call, which is 99% of the time turns out to be absolutely nothing. But that one time that I'm not ready for it is going to be the time it happens. So I consistently say, I'm going to go in, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to approach from this side, I know where this building is, I know the layout, I'm going to go in there. If I find an open door, wherever it may be, this is how I'm going to act, okay? But it could be anything. This is how we teach ourselves. What are you going to do if there's a fire? What are you going to do if there's tornadoes? What are you going to do if there's an active shooter? And I'm going to show you the video, because that's the video I have to show you in just a second. I have to show that one, unfortunately, because it's like 9 minutes, and that's why I'm trying to get through this so we can all go home and enjoy our day, right? But it's just finding problems that you may or even may not come across in your lifetime, discovering solutions for those problems, and then rehearsing the answers to it. It's that simple. It's not hard to do. You may be, it can, like I said before, it's like, hey, if I'm driving down this road, and we should be doing this, but most of us don't do it now because of technology, and some of us may, but if I constantly am looking at my mirrors, rear view mirrors, side view mirrors, wondering what's going on in front of me, I don't drive straight ahead in front of me. I drive 6 or 7 car lengths in front of me and scan as I'm driving and come back, and then I go back out. So I know what's going on around me all the time, okay? My wife says I'm the most boring travel partner in the world, but I'm telling her I'm the most safe travel partner in the world as well. I said it's one or the other. So, and I practice in my head, if somebody does this, what am I going to do? Constantly changes because may not be able to maneuver to the left or right depending on the situation, because there might be a car over there, and I'm sure I'm going to hit that car and then me be at fault when somebody else was about to hit me for whatever reason. Does that make sense? But you have to, this is just certain things that you got to be, you want to do, okay? Constantly thinking about things. And again, I don't want you to go out of here and go, man, he told me to think about all the problems I got in my world, and I'm never going to find solutions. No, that's not what I'm telling you, okay? I'm not, okay? I just want you to, these are things that you can think about and practice these solutions. Practice what you're going to do, okay? Who's heard of the OODA loop? It's another military term. It's a very good one, okay? It's very simple. It's a process that takes about half a second. Shouldn't take much longer than that when you're practicing mental scripting. When you do those things, it shouldn't happen, but you observe a threat. You see something happening in front of you, whatever it may be, okay? You orient to that situation, meaning that you are saying, this is where I am, the threat is here, this is my environment, what can I do around myself to make myself safe, get away from the situation that I need to do, or what do I need to do? Then you have to decide to do something. Whatever it is that you decide to do, do it. Don't second guess your decision, just do it, okay? But always have a backup plan, because you may go, oh, I'm going to go out this door, and go, oh, there's somebody else over there that I don't want to meet, so I'm going to go out that window, okay? It's all because it can replay constantly in your head, okay? But once you make that decision, you need to act on it and do it quick, because remember, action is quicker than reaction, right? You're always behind, what I like to say, you're always behind that Powerball. When somebody decides to do something they shouldn't do, you're always behind that Powerball. Or whenever bad weather happens, whatever it may be, again, you're always behind that loop, so we have to practice it. There's a really good video of a person that is driving down the road. I don't know where it was. It's like a 2-lane road. There's an overpass. It's one way. The car in front of him stops, and he's like, that's not normal. So he stops about a few car lengths behind him. And this is why I always stop like a car length or so behind any cars in front of me, so I have room to get out of there if I need to. Okay, he stops. 2 guys get out with guns trying to carjack him, and what does he do? He makes a decision and he drives straight forward. Do it exactly, because that was the only way he had to go. He drove straight through it, forward. They left him enough room on the right-hand side, and he drove straight through. Broke the car doors open, and everything was great. Okay, but that's the things that you have to think about. Okay, let me take that back. I don't want you to think about them constantly, but I want you to understand that these are things that can happen, and you have to. This is what the OODA loop is. You're observing a threat. You orient yourself to the situation. How can I get out of this? Make a decision, and then take that action. Any questions on that? This is a long video, and I'll okay, so basically what this video does is it just kind of shows a guy comes in from the doors up on the middle of this top middle screen. He comes in, he has a shotgun. It is not a small shotgun. It is like one that they would use during stagecoach days. It was huge, okay? Basically, and this guy here sitting in the table that's on the top right corner doesn't move for almost 45 seconds. Doesn't see anything, doesn't do anything. And you'll see in the video, it's pretty entertaining. But what that does is it shows that people aren't paying attention to their surroundings like they should, because we always are doing certain things. He's reading a book or on a computer or something. But the fact that we don't pay attention to our surroundings, I'm not telling you not to be on your phones. I'm just saying, hey, every now and then, look up and check your surroundings, okay? Because I've done it several times. When I've found cars being in parking lots at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I walk up to them and they don't even know I'm there. Blue lights can be on and everything, and they don't have a clue that you're there because they're not paying attention. Okay, I have to give you the active shooter definition. It involves one or more persons engaged in killing or attempting to kill multiple people in an area occupied by multiple unrelated individuals. This is an FBI definition, not mine. Okay, so basically what that means, it doesn't involve domestic violence, it doesn't involve serial killing, and it doesn't involve gang-related killings. Okay. Unfortunately, yes, these have increased, but I don't know if it's increased more than it's just been more publicized in the media. I think that's maybe what it is. On all honesty, they call them different things, but this stuff has been going on for as long as, if you look back in history, it's been going on quite a long time. A couple of things that have happened here in Cobb. You have Coca-Cola, which happened on July 8th of 1999, obviously long before they started calling them active shooters. There was 2 fatalities, and the gunman was taken out by the police. The Penske, this was not too long ago, 2010 on Barrett Lakes Boulevard. There were 4 fatalities, and we caught the guy. This one I did respond to, but by the time I got there, they had already had him in custody. Because I promise you, when things like this happen, there are going to be so many cops showing up, they get mad at us for where we park our cars because there's no room for anybody else to get there. They do. They tell us park somewhere because, I should say they get mad at us. It's more for like the medical people to get in, which is extremely important. Okay. And then FedEx, which happened just a few years ago. Again, there were 6 injured, and I did respond to this one and was there within probably about 5 or 6 minutes after it happened. That one was kind of scary. He had all kinds of stuff. Molotov cocktails. I won't show you the video because it takes too long. Molotov cocktails, more ammunition than he needed. But we got there and he decided he was gonna take his own life. All right, so this theory of hide and hope. How many of you heard that theory of run, hide? What is it? I can remember. Run, hide, fight. Okay, I think there's actually a movie that's called Run, Hide, Fight if you haven't seen them. It's a recently new one, probably within the last 6 months or so. We have gotten away from the telling people to hide theory. Okay, not to hide. We use a different term, and you could construe it as hiding. Okay, but the way they do it, it's called deny. But the way I like to say it is because we're not hiding and trying to, I'm just going to play dead, because that doesn't work. Okay, we do the we do the avoid, deny, defend theory, which you'll see a video of in just a second, so I'm not going to get into it. But we try not to teach the hide phase anymore, because hiding is not, you'll learn in the video, is not the best thing in the world. Hopefully this starts and it will be loud enough for you.
There's a gunman inside the store. We need help now.
What's going to be the solution by the time we...
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. I actually think he's got he's got a truck. I don't know if your daughter would be interested.
We need help. There's a gunman inside the store. He's shooting the place up. We need help now.
issues that we found
Okay, you're safe for that.
This guy with the gun is shooting. Look.
James, what on?
No, look.
Run! To the right, to the loading dock. Come on, this way.
Oh, no, come here.
Yeah, in here. The gunman's coming.
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna have to defend ourselves.
I can't do this.
You're gonna see your daughter tonight, okay? We are all going to go home tonight. All right? We have a right to defend ourselves. Get the gun! Hey! Hold him down!
Gosh, I'm just so glad you're okay.
Yes, we're all gonna go home. Everybody's going home.
If you ever have the misfortune to be in an active shooter event, you deserve to survive. In our research, we have found that the actions that potential victims take during these events are critical to their survival. We have identified 3 options that have proven effective in many events. These are: avoid the attacker, deny the attacker access to your area, defend yourself. It is a personal decision, but you have a right to do so. Avoiding the attacker starts with being aware of your surroundings at all times and knowing what is going on around you. If you see or hear something that looks suspicious, take action. For example, the stalker took immediate and effective action to protect himself when he observed the shooter pulling out weapons from the bag. Others, however, hesitated, and this hesitation can cost them valuable time that they could use to get away from the threat. If you hear something that is, or could be, gunfire, start trying to get away from it as soon as possible. Gunfire has a distinctive sound. Inside of buildings, the sound can be muffled or distorted. A single loud bang could be a person dropping something, or even thunder. But repeated loud bangs are much more likely to be gunfire. Additionally, look at the reaction of others. Are they startled or scared? Are they running? What are they saying? Any one of these events individually may create denial, but when put together, should create a heightened awareness and stimulate an immediate response. It is important that you know how to get out. The situation will be chaotic and rapidly changing. In general, you will want to go to the nearest exit. But you must also understand that the closest exit may not be accessible or safe to use. If this is the case, go to a different exit. While avoiding the threat, consider the uses of cover and concealment. Cover offers protection from gunfire, while concealment minimizes your exposure to the attacker. Try to keep objects between you and the attacker. If you can't avoid the attacker, sometimes the best option will be to deny the attacker access to your location. In many locations, this can be accomplished by closing and locking a door, such as they did in the meeting room. Locking the door has proven effective in many attacks. If the door does not have a lock, you can place heavy objects in front of it. Remember, barricades work best if the door opens toward you. If it doesn't, use things that are readily available, such as straps, belts, or objects that can be used to block or secure the door to make it difficult for the attacker to enter the room. This may at least slow the attacker down and give you time to identify alternate means of escape, such as adjoining rooms or windows. When attempting to deny access to your location, you want to make it appear that there is no one in your area. Lock doors, turn off the lights, silence your phones, and get out of sight. Your attempt to deny the attacker access to your location might fail.
The gunman's coming.
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna have to defend ourselves.
Have a backup plan about what you will do. In many cases, this may be to defend yourself. You need to be in a place where you can act if the attacker comes into your location. In most rooms, you will line up against the same wall that the door is on, near the door so you can react, but not directly in front of it. If you are unable to avoid or deny, your best option may be to defend yourself by using whatever is available. In a situation where someone is attempting to kill you, you have the legal right to defend yourself. Attack weak spots such as eyes, throat, and groin. Fight to the best of your ability and do not quit until the attacker is stopped. This is what the workers in the warehouse did when they were unable to avoid the attacker and felt their lives were in immediate danger. Whatever option you choose, call 911 as soon as you are in a safe location. Provide any information that you know. The operator will ask you a lot of questions. If you don't know the answer, don't guess. Just say you don't know and only state the facts. This will be a complex situation, and we can't tell you what you should do in every case. What we can do is provide you with information about the options that we have found to be most effective for surviving these attacks. The ultimate choice is yours. What you do matters. Avoid the attacker. Deny access to your location. Defend yourself. Law enforcement will be entering a chaotic scene with limited information. Their first priority will be to stop the threat to your safety. The police may not know where or who the threat is. Listen and comply with their commands immediately.
Put it down, sir. Put it down. Both of you on the ground.
Police are trained to look at people's hands to assess threats. Do not have anything in your hands that could be perceived as a weapon, such as a cell phone.
Show me your hands, sir. Show me your hands. Move to us. Everybody, keep your hands up, please. Walk out the door.
If told to do so, stay where you are and do not make sudden movements. Again, follow all commands. Remember, what you do matters. Avoid the attacker. Deny access to your location. Defend yourself. Remember, ADD. You can survive.
Any questions on that? Pretty simple theory. Okay? Remember the Midtown shooting that happened last year. One of the doctors had actually done that in 19. Actually just come through his course a few months before and had taken his employees, got them out of the building. And I did hear a few people that were why did you leave the building? Shit was out of the building. You just never know. So avoiding is the first thing that you want to try to do. Okay? When he talks about that whole deny, when he talks about the deny theory, okay, that's the key where we used to use the hide. Okay? Yes, denying him, you're hiding in a room, okay? But you're not just hiding in that room. You're preparing to defend yourself if you need to. You saw that one lady with that huge stapler thing that looks like it was about 40 pounds of stapler, okay? That will do some stuff if you need to, okay? It doesn't matter what you think it does. you're like, oh, this won't do. If you could pick up a pencil and go, oh, this won't do anything, yes, it will. Okay? Like he said in the video, we're not fighting fair at all. There's no such thing. And I grew up, my dad always said there is no such thing as a fair fight. Okay? That's just the way it is. Okay? He always told me if I got home and found out that I started it, my life would be over. But there's no such thing as a fair fight. Okay? So, but the deny thing, yes, it's technically you're hiding, trying to deny that person access to you. Okay? But what you're also doing is preparing yourself to defend yourself if you need to. And getting into that defend thing, okay? Like he said, there's no such thing. You have the right to defend yourself. Okay? I say that, but you also have to understand what your abilities are and what you can and cannot do. Does that make sense? Yes.
Could we apply those 3 items to this situation?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If a shooter, and we'll use that as a possibility, comes in through the back, what should we all do first?
Avoid. Because somebody's going to see it.
You
You got these 2 doors. You got, like I said, but you need somebody that's going to be calm and go, hey, let's make this as fast as possible and get out this way and go wherever we can. Where you go from there is completely up to you. I don't care if you run across Dallas Highway, not running into traffic, because they drive like idiots out there, I'm telling you right now. I sit right across the street right there in that gore area from about 10 o'clock at night until about 2 o'clock in the morning waiting for seeing people just doing 60 to 70 miles an hour down there all the time. Yes, that's me. So if I pulled you over for that, I apologize. But that will get people's attention to know what's going on. Run into a neighborhood across the street. Okay? That's perfect.
Officer, just, if you look around at us, you'll see that the few young families that we do have all gone home.
Yeah, yeah.
Kids are taking naps. But, getting all the way across the street might not be
Correct.
something that every one of us can do.
Mhm.
But still, the first thing is to get out this way.
If you can. Now, if you have somebody that's able to secure those doors, do those doors lock at all? I'm not. Do they lock? They do lock. Okay. Do you have ushers that are? Mm-hmm. Lock to come in? Mm-hmm. Correct. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Some, yeah.
Well, I'm not worried about courage.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that you need to. Yeah, we can. Yes.
But capability may be something different.
Okay.
And also, I just think we should all be alert to we have some teenagers that sit down here much of the time. We have young families that will generally sit in the back. I mean, somebody has to be throwing themselves on top of those people to protect them or getting them out if
Okay.
it's possible.
But and this is one of the things that I'm going to stress to you as well. Okay. And this is going to go against everything that everybody in this room was probably brought up with. Okay. And it's not something I would do either. Okay. But what happens if I go over there and I'm trying to get that family out and they're refusing to move because they freeze? What does that do to you? Hold on. No. Hold on. But are you willing to do that? Because that could mean that you may be a victim of this. Right. And it's what they say in that video is whatever you decide to do is what matters. I can't make that decision for you. We can talk about 1,000 what if this, what if that, and I'm going to throw it back in you because I teach judgmental shooting as well. Okay? To the police department. If I taught it to you ever about civilians out here, I've been sued about 1,000 times more than I already have been. The thing is, though, is what ifs. When I get what if questions about things, I'm going to be like, what would you do? You have to come up with that decision. I can't make that decision for you because I'm not you. I don't know your abilities. I don't know your strengths, your weaknesses, and things like that. I cannot make that decision for you. If I could, then we'd all be doing the same thing. We'd be standing out there ready to fight and do whatever, but you can't all do that. Does that make sense? Okay.
So, and again, we need to remember that we have very few rooms that lock.
Right.
So, the old denies would
But-
be limited.
Yes, it is.
But there are some.
It's limited, but that's not the only option that you have, though. Okay, that's the thing that I try to tell people all the time is it's not the only option they gave you. Avoiding is another option. If you don't have that option, it's like Jim said, was if you can get underneath the pews, I'm not suggesting it because you may not be able to, but if you can get there and somebody is willing to, because there's going to be some people in here, I can look at this group and I can tell you there's somebody that's going to be like, no, I'm fighting. I can look at this group and I can tell there's going to be people that, because I can tell you when you looked at that video, when they did fight the guy and book him down, they're like, why are you not beating the tar out of that guy? Okay? I know there's some people in this group that thought that because that's what I'm thinking, but it's a video, then they can't show you that, I guess, because it's the government that put it out there and they're not going to show it to you. But I can guarantee you there's going to be people that will do that. Okay? Because they're and there may not even be in this room, but you'd be surprised when your life is in danger what you will do. 100% you're going to be surprised what you can and cannot do. Okay? I don't care who you are. Doesn't matter. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how young you are, what your shape is, like as far as like how healthy you are, what your fitness level is. I don't care. You are willing, you're going to do things that you never thought possible. Okay? Now, do we allow armed people in here at all?
As far as I know, we do not. We don't have.
You don't have somebody checking people or anything like that? Okay.
Well, but I don't think we have a policy.
Against it. Because I know usually with the church that I go to, the diocese says you can only, if you're law enforcement, you can be armed. Otherwise, you may not be. I'm sorry? If you have people that are armed inside the church that come on. And if you're not supposed to, don't raise your hand. But that could be a thing that you could think of. We could discuss later. I'm not telling you to do it by any means. Okay? But if you have armed people, or if you carry outside of here during that, you have to make sure that if you ever come in an incident where that gun has to be used, that when we arrive, put it down, step away from it, let us know that, hey, I'm not the bad guy, yell, scream, whatever. We may not hear you, but we'll do it because you have that right to defend yourself when your life is being threatened or somebody else's life is being threatened. Okay, I see your hand and I promise I'm going to get to you. Okay? We ask that you don't go out and hunt for the killer. That's our job. I'm not telling you that if you see him coming down this way and you're armed and he's doing something bad, not to take care of it. I would never tell you not to do that. I'm not going to tell you to be a victim. Does that make sense? But I'm not going to say, if you're safe and you don't see anything, don't go out looking for it. Because when we show up, we don't know who's who. I've been involved in a couple of these incidents where there've actually been incidents and not been incidents, okay? And we get thousands of calls, and they're all different people. Our description is different, okay? So that's why we ask you not to go out and do that. So, and if you do decide to get a gun ever, your choice, it says to seek more training, and yes, 100%. Because you don't want to get a gun, you don't want to put it in the closet and go, oh, it'll work when I get it, when I need it, because that's not the way it works. Know how to use it, know the functionality of it, know how to clean it, how to clear it, all the stuff that they will teach you in those things, okay? But more importantly, that I tell people in this, you have to tell yourself, can I do what it takes to take somebody else's life if that came up? Because I'm telling you right now, in the incidents that I've been where I've had to do that, it's not something that sits with you and you just go, I'll never remember it ever again, okay? Because you will, okay? Whether good or bad, okay? It happens, okay? So that's why I always tell people, if that's something you ever decide to do, you have to be able to tell yourself, can you or can you not do it? What was your question? Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, and that's yeah. Yeah. Yes, 100%. Yeah. No, there's not. And there are a lot of good places that can teach you how to do these things. If that's just, I can't promote one over the other. They don't tell me, but there's a lot of them out there. If you get with me afterwards, I can tell you a couple of good ones, but I can't promote one over the other. And that's why we say if we come in, that's why we will tell everybody on these incidents when we come in, we are telling everybody to put their hands up. And you're not just walking out of the building. We are securing everybody that's there, because there have been active shooter incidents where the active shooter actually walks out of the building with the people that are in there, and we discovered it afterwards. So we don't just let you go and just go, oh, you can go wherever you want to. No, you're out of the building, be safe. But if you do have a gun during that, we'll tell you, lower your hands. We're not going in and just shooting at everything that's got a gun. I promise you that we're not. We have rules that we have to abide by. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But the only thing I would tell you, I would warn against that, is if you pull the fire alarm and it's an active shooter, people are going to go out certain ways and they're not going to realize that that's what it is. So a lot of businesses, even churches, will have code words that they can use. I would use at the Truist Park, if we ever have an incident that's a critical incident, not necessarily an active shooter, but anything that people's lives are in danger, whether it be weather or anything like that, we use what's called Code Black. Code Black will come over the radio, and we do everything we can to get everybody where we need to be safe. So, yes.
I'm surprised at, for a moment I thought that was probably a stage video to show what can happen.
Yeah, it was, 100%.
And it was.
Yes.
And I was really surprised in where you had held that, and the amount of cameras all over the place, even in conference rooms.
Mhm.
I don't know if
I'm pretty sure that it was staged, and they just had the cameras in there to show the people how they would act if something like. But there's a couple of things. If you hear something that looks like gunshots or sounds like gunshots, don't tell somebody to go look in the hallway to see what it is. Okay, just pretend that that's what it is. Shut the lights out, lock the doors, deny them access into there, because I'm not going to say, hey, go out in the hallway and look what that is, and then that person get hurt, and then I'm like, oh, that was not good. So, I mean, you can do whatever you want to do, but it's completely, I wouldn't put somebody in that. I'd be like, because gunshots, believe it or not, we get during the summer, we get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them that says, hey, they're gunshots, and that's not what they are. Fireworks they're different. Okay, there is a very distinctive sound between the two. Okay, but yes, you're 100% correct. But you'll, it's like it said in there, you'll know it. Okay, you'll know the difference. But I'm not telling you, because gunshots aren't going to usually be so rapid like fireworks are. Okay, but I'm never going to tell you, if that's what you think it is, not to call. Okay, I would never tell you, if you think gunshots are out in your neighborhood or near the area, call us. We'll go figure it out if that's what it is or not. Okay, but if they're inside of a building, they're loud. I got a couple more minutes, right? We're good on time, Jim? Okay. The shooting that happened in Texas, a month or so ago at the church. That should have been stopped before anything went any further. And this is where I get into that whole thing of, I kind of meant to bring it up before, but that's paying attention to your surroundings and knowing what's going on. They had an off-duty officer that was there working, and he is, so let's say that the door where the lady comes in with her son comes through the door. There's two people that work for the church there, and there's an officer probably not much further away from the door than I am right now. And they're all on their phones when she comes in, armed with a rifle. So the fact that we do this, where we don't pay attention to our surroundings as much as we should, that shows tremendously how bad that was. And I'm not going to get into the rest of it because it's ugly. But that could have been prevented for somebody not paying attention to what they should have been doing. Okay, not putting any fault on anybody, I guess, per se, but just to say that that's why we pay attention. When I'm working a part-time, I'm not on my phone constantly. Like I said, I'm at Truist Park quite a bit during the day, and I sit in front of their cameras, and I go walking around, and I leave my phone sitting at the desk. My wife hates me for it because she texts me 600 times when I get back, but she understands. So those kind of things, it just means to open our eyes and start looking around at our surroundings more and paying attention. Okay, and I know while you're up here, you pay attention to things that are going around when you can. Okay, I understand that, and the ushers do what they can. It's all because we don't want to make, especially a church, we don't want to make it a place where we don't feel. You have a sign out there that says everybody is welcome, and we don't want that to be well, why are you coming in here? What are you doing? I don't know you kind of thing. So we have to balance. I do it at the stadium. I'm like I said, I walk around there constantly, and I'm looking at weak spots because that's what I do. I'm looking at ways people can get into places easily and penetrate them over and over again without being seen. But we have to still make it as a welcome of a place as we possibly can. And that's the key to it. I don't want everybody going, we're going to be invaded tomorrow, and that's not the case. Okay? I want you to be vigilant, but I don't want you to be so vigilant that you're going into that black phase constantly for the rest of forever. Because if you do that, you're not going to live very long. Because your heart rate's going to be too high, and you're not going to make it, I promise you, okay? All right? Over that. Stop. Okay. Is there any other questions about anything at all? I wouldn't imagine that would go very far. Is it for Georgia? For the U.S. Senate? Yeah, I wouldn't imagine that would go very far either. That's a question you'd have to ask them. I'll be honest with you. And a lot of it, I think, when you get down to it, I'm a firm believer that the church should have their whatever rules they want to have, no matter what private businesses, wherever they want to be, they should be able to do whatever they want to do, and leave it at that. But I'm sure it's comes down to somebody that being upset that they weren't allowed to go in with something or something. Who knows? They come up with bills different ways because somebody got upset about something. Why do you think Georgia didn't have a seatbelt law for trucks for so many years? All the congressmen and state lawmakers down in South Georgia are mostly farmers, and they didn't want to wear their seatbelts. I swear to you that's why we did not have seatbelt laws for so many years for trucks. That's exactly why you didn't have them. Who knows? Yes, ma'am. Which one is that?
It had a list, listen to your instincts.
I'm not sure which one is. Was it in the video?
Yeah, it was at the beginning of the slideshow.
Oh, at the beginning of the slideshow.
Yeah. It was like a list of 6 things. And the first one was listen to your instincts.
Oh, I know what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions about anything? Because that's it for me. Unless I can do questions now, though.
What was the percentage of the statistics on mass shootings and those type of guns that they use? Because it seems that it's obviously
Rifles and things like because that's you're going to get me going. You're going to get me going on my personal beliefs, and I can't do that. There are statistics, and let me see if I have them in my book. Let me see if I can get them to see which ones. There are statistics, I believe I have them here, which show different types of weapons that were used in certain things. Believe it or not, we're going to go over this. Primary weapon is just as a handgun, and those were used 91.35% of the time. 91.35% of the time. Mm-hmm. It is, but believe it or not, I carry a rifle in my patrol car that we use for duty. I have a patrol rifle in my patrol car that I use for duty that I could hide in my uniform and you wouldn't see it. A rifle? Yes, sir. They're called short barrel rifles. They're not very big. It would be difficult for me to do it, but I could hide it just as easy as anything else. Okay? Yeah. And there's lots of discussion as to why. But yeah, handguns are because handguns, one, again, here you are, like you said, the fearfulness, the reason why it's fearful is because you can conceal them so easily. You can conceal shotguns. I mean, I can take a shotgun, saw it off, because I'm not worried about whether it's legal or not. All right? I'm not. It's not a concern of mine whether it's legal or not. So I can saw it off and make that shotgun to be about that big and not worry about it.
So if it's a sunny day, they have on a fur coat.
Might want to. I mean, that would draw my attention. Would I be freaking out about it? Going, oh, what the heck? I mean, because I'll be honest with you, I'm a cold-natured person. So I'm at home and my wife's burning up in the house, and I've got a hoodie on because I'm cold, and she's like, "What the heck is the matter with you?" And so, yeah, and it is. But is it something that do we pay attention to it and watch what's going on? Watch what that person's doing? Yeah.
Well, there again, it's like, do you just act or do you delay?
Me personally, I mean, I've watched that person and what they're doing. I mean, I'm going to watch. You know, I mean, if they come in like that, it's like, yeah, I mean, ask them, hey, do you mind if I take your coat? We got a coat hanger. You know, no need to do it. It's pretty warm inside here. We'll take your coat and hang it up for you. Or there's nothing wrong with asking somebody something. I ask people all questions all the time that most people would like, you're crazy for asking that question.
You mentioned something about being aware. I'm a retired human resource manager who used to have a full complement of security personnel who watch cameras. And they would give our managers an idea of what to look for. Just because it's a very simple thing, in front of you and around you, you'll check when you go in anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a store,
Right.
no matter where it is.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you become instinctive to that. You've heard it so many times. The first thing you do, I can tell you around this place.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's probably one of the most thing that we have to look at. What reservoir is around.
Yes. And then when I said that about paying attention to your surroundings, everybody in here was like, yeah, I pretty much do that. Everybody's like that.
So in the video, when the guys are hiding in the warehouse, they jump down and disable the guy. Let's just say you had, I don't know, a broomstick or something, somebody was coming, what would be your best place to hit somebody for your first point of action?
Throat, eyes, the groin, female or male.
I mean, like what?
It's gonna hurt.
You had one
If you have one good shot, I'm going for the throat. I'm going for the throat because, excuse me. But when I've been in many fights during my career, the first thing I'm doing is I'm hitting them in the throat. Okay? Because I'm knocking them off their balance and I'm taking away their mental ability to think, even if it's just for a second, and that reaction beats action, or action beats reaction every time, right? So that gives me a chance to do this. Again, excuse me, but when I've had people that are big and tall and refuse to get in the back of a police car, there's a way to get them in there. You know exactly what I'm thinking. They're going to be facing me every time, and they're like, I'm not getting in there, I'm not getting in there. And I'm just going to give them a little love tap to the groin. It bends them over, and I shove them in the car. I'm not hurting them permanently for anything, but it's one of those things that you have to think. But those are the things that they talk about fighting. It works every time. Whatever you decide to do, that action is what you have to do. Okay? You do that action and that reaction, or the action that you're going to take, that decisive action that you decide you're going to take. If you decide to hit him in the throat with it, that's where you go. But you have to have a plan to react afterwards as well. Just hitting them in the throat is not going to be that's not going to end everything. You have to be ready to do something afterwards as well. Okay?
Let's be realistic. If someone comes in with a sawed-off shotgun and gun, I don't care what it is, and they start shooting, you're going to go look for a police.
No, you're 100% right.
They're going to get out of the way because they're going to start shooting. It doesn't matter what kind of weapon you find, a candlestick or whatever.
Correct. And I didn't want to bring that up because I don't want to say, hey, grab the candles off the altar and start hitting people with them. Because I didn't want to be disrespectful. And you're sitting there, okay. But I mean, look in the pews at what you have. I know it doesn't seem much, but if I have that chance to hit somebody with whatever it may be, okay, are these bolted down to this? Are these bolted down? Yeah. Okay, that's too bad. Oh, I'm just kidding. Somebody would take them home and they'd be in the living room with movie theater.
So, just because we have a good variety of people here, we have been involved with a Taekwondo gym for 17 years, and we could have a class that we could do here, and Grandmaster Droby would be happy to come and to teach you a few things. I mean, personally, I would just stick Janice Rose on. My daughter's a third-degree black belt, but you can hit them in the neck and you can disable them, and it's knowing what to do, and we can have a class to do that. Well, I've been in a few situations like that, and if you just show your confidence, they're gonna back down.
And that's what boils it down to, like you just said. If you do a self-defense class, and we do talk about those if it was the 2-hour class, and I'm glad you brought it up, because those make sure the techniques are simple enough for you to use, okay, and that you practice them. It's no different than a gun. If you don't practice with it or don't train on it more than just once, it's not going to be useful. Okay? And when, like we were talking about fighting fair, if you hit them in the neck and you have that moment to stun them, I don't care what you do after there. There's, again, no such thing as a fair fight. If you hear their shoulder snap because you pulled their arm behind their back and their shoulder snaps, that's on them. Right, I mean, exactly. Okay, I mean, I know I'm being a little graphic, but it's what it is. It is what it is. You can go for the eyes if you want to. I don't care. Your elbow. It depends on how close you want to get to them. Okay, but do whatever it takes. If you want to hit him in the eyes, that's perfect. That's a good spot too. Eyes are just the nose. It's effective. It'll make you tear up. It makes you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just being realistic. Okay, the church's size, as open as we are, would it be to our advantage to hire off-duty policemen for that hour and a half or 2 hours? Would it be?
I've worked a church before, and I'm never going to tell you not to do whatever you think it is, but that would obviously be up to the board on what you guys think you should or should not do. Okay? But that's kind of getting into the thing of Me not wanting to get you guys so paranoid that you think you have to do something that you don't need to do. Okay? Because I'm going to guarantee, I promise you right now, us coming on our time is not cheap. Okay? And I don't say that to be crude or anything, but I mean, coming out for 2 hours a time, it's gonna be like a $50 to $75 an hour range for you guys, and that's expensive.
But I think
And which those things, but I'm not telling you not to, but I would make sure that if you do that, it's not somebody that sits in the parking lot constantly, okay? Somebody that's either in the church, wherever you decide you would put them. It's not a bad idea, okay? But you got to weigh the good and bad things about it, because you might get somebody that comes out here and they just sit in their car in the parking lot watching a movie for an hour and a half. And I don't want you to, I'm not saying that they would do that. I'm just saying that there is that possibility. You need somebody that's going to be beneficial, that if you decided to do that, it's beneficial and they're where you need them to be, and staying out of where you don't want them to be, which was kind of what I tried to do. I came in, I'm like, oh, and I tried to move over to the corner there and hide, and then when I walked down there, I walked in and came back and tried to hide in the corner so I wasn't as visible to everybody in here, and everybody going, what the heck is he doing here, right? So.
But I think the first line of defense is, like Jim said, when we are about to start service, those doors are locked.
The back, okay. And I just want to are those doors able to be opened from the inside? Okay, and that's because that's my only thing. If they're not, you were looking at a fire code violation. Yeah, and I just want to make sure that we don't do anything. Because I'm telling you, you think my fines for tickets are high? Yeah, the fire marshal come in here and find that. You guys that's an expensive one.
What about mace or something like that?
I'm for it if you want to use it.
Yeah.
Just make sure it's not expired. Stuff go bad. I'm all for it. Get the stream kind.
Some that's like at a distance that, like,
Okay, but mace or OC spray is only effective from about 7 to 10 feet.
While spray was shooting 20 feet.
Yeah, but it's not that effective. You got to watch the drop-off range. Okay, that's what ours is. Mine, I can shoot mine from 25 feet, but it's not effective other than 7 to 12 feet is what ours is effective from. 7 to 15 feet. I'm sorry. You'd be surprised what you could look around in here, and if I had time, I would go and show you. Hey, look, you could use this, and you could use this.
The candlesticks.
I'm not telling you to use candlesticks. I would not do that. I will. See, she told me no, and I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. There's something about it that, only if you put gloves on first. Okay. They are brass, right? And they're just, yeah. So, but there's things that you guys can do. What I'm hearing though, is what Jim had brought up at first, is just having eyes for you in places where you can have the eyes that are a warning system. Okay? Now in the video, they showed you silence the phones, but you saw that he turned it off. Do not turn your phones off. Please do not turn your cell phones off. That's your way to communicate to us if you needed to. Do not turn them off. But I like the idea. That's where I personally would start. Okay, is having those eyes in places where you need them, whether it be ushers or whoever else you want them to be. If you feel comfortable with somebody that you know that sits in the pews, have them here, watching for you. Yes, ma'am. Okay, cameras are good for one thing, and that is letting you know when somebody's here that when you're not here. Cameras, that's all cameras are good for. That's what they're good for. They would be good if anything ever happened for us to go back and look, but in all honesty, I mean, you'd be surprised how many cameras I have out here, and to my ability with me just putting in my password, and how many cameras I have available to me for when we do investigations, and I can say, oh, that car hit me at this red light and took off, and I can look at that traffic light and look at that accident and then try to get that the tag off of that car. We have all kinds of things now. It's scary to a point, to be honest with you. You would think I worked with the NIS or something, but CIA, all those good alphabet groups. So, but But cameras, yes, they are good, but are they preventative? They're not 100% preventative. I personally believe people in certain places, things like that are your preventative things. And again, the whole thing bringing up weapons, if that's something you guys decide you need to pick that person if that's something you decided to do, you would need to have somebody that's well trained and versed in them. Yes, ma'am?
You always see people calling 911.
You can text 911 now.
You can text.
Yes, ma'am.
You can text 911.
If you go to the Cobb County 911 website, and I'm sorry I don't have, but you are able to text 911. They do have a text, and believe it or not, they can actually, because a lot of people are, I don't know my address. Well, we can ping your phone and tell you where you're at. You can do that with text messages as well now too. They have the reverse 911 thing where we can figure out where you're at if not. I'm sorry? I'm sorry. I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, the WhatsApp thing? Yes. We don't use that. I use it for personal things, and I have to stay off of it because it gets me in trouble. But you could use that. It's a communication tool if you had certain people here that you wanted to, or make a text group message or whatever. But we, as law enforcement, don't use those things personally.
Say we do have people in church that are doing that every time we come back on there to watch. What would their reaction be if they were to see someone coming in? What would they do to the congregation? Would they say, get down, everybody get down?
It's a judgment call, and what is going on at that particular time? What do I need to do? What do I need to tell them to do? Do I need to start getting everybody out? Do I need to fight that person? Do I need to? Everything, it depends. There could be so many scenarios I could throw back at you and go, what is that person doing? What are they? And there's all kinds of things you could do. Unfortunately, I can't say, yep, this is specifically what you would do in that situation. Yes, sir. I can't hear you. I'm sorry, say that again. Illegal? No. They're not illegal. No, I've never heard of them being illegal before, no. He said iron gloves, like metal gloves. Yeah, brass knuckles, if you talk about, that's what you're talking about. If you're talking about like brass knuckles, the one you wear like there, yes. You can own them, but you can't carry them. Let's put it that way. They do a lot of different things with the law. Yes, you can own things, but you can't carry them with you. Yeah, they are. Yes, ma'am.
What happens in schools with kids with this kind of information?
The school has their own resource officers that they use, especially here in Cobb. They have a really good group. Most of them actually used to work with us. They retired and then decided they want to keep doing this, and I'm not. But they decided they wanted to keep doing this, and then they went to work with kids. I'm not saying in this. I might go back and continue work at Truist Park, but I cannot work in a school. But knowing your weaknesses. But they teach them these things. They're very well versed at these things. They do these practice drills so much, like we would do tornado drills and fire drills when we were kids. They do those just as much. They do the active shooter drills just as much. And they have a very good systems that are set in there where if they punch in a code, that teachers can lock all of the doors in the school if they needed to be. They have on their badge, they have like a thing that they can push. I don't know exactly how it works, but they can push it and it locks all the doors and alerts everybody in the school. It's pretty interesting how I'm sure it probably cost a lot of money. That's why your taxes went up. I'm just kidding, I have no idea why. Just saying. Any other questions? Okay.
Well, it's 1:40.
Yeah.
Appreciate all your time.
Yes, sir. No problem at all. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.